You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another episode of Random Thoughts. Today I'm going to be talking about what I think are the worst parts of the DevilMan series. Because, I talk about DevilMan a lot, it's one of my favorite series, but let's talk about some of the stuff that I don't like as much, or at least I like a lot less. I was planning on doing an overanalyzing, talking about DevilMan and canon and stuff like that, but my voice is still kind of shot, and I don't want to do a full overanalyzing while it's like that, just because I don't know. I guess I have a higher standard for that than I do for Random Thoughts. But as you guys know, I typically like a lot of the Devilman stuff, even the ones that I may not like certain aspects about, I do like. Like, for instance, I don't like the second half of Demon Lord Dante really that much, like at all. But I still overall like Demon Lord Dante, and like the second half, I've still watched and like enjoyed elements of it. But I think that the ending is kind of stupid, and I think that kind of the second half, and the twist, which granted was the whole point of it, that God is supposed to be the bad guy. But I thought that it was kind of stupid, because it, like, justifies all of the people that are, like, murdered by the demons and shit at the beginning. It's just like, oh yeah, these are actually the good guys who are killing all these people. Like, if it was trying to give, like, a more nuanced take or something, whatever, but, like, to just straight up say, these are actually the good guys, these demons who are just killing a bunch of people to try and summon Dante. They're the good guys. Not to mention it contradicts itself, because the fact that Dante had another face when Rio first saw him doesn't fucking matter, because later on it's revealed that Rio has always been Dante, and Dante has always had Rio's face. But despite that, like I said, Demon Lord Dante isn't the worst thing in the world. I still like it. But there's a lot of aspects that I think are kind of stupid in the second half. Which, in fairness, the manga wasn't originally finished. The manga didn't originally have an ending. But let's talk about a worse ending, because speaking of bad endings, you guys have probably heard me mention this countless times, but the ending to Devilman Lady is fucking abysmal. It's fucking awful. And spoilers, like I spoiled Demon Lord Dante there, but just this whole thing, just expect spoilers throughout. Just expect that. But the ending to the Devilman Lady manga is like the worst fucking ending I have literally read in anything. It's so bad. Like, it's really, really bad as an ending. Like, honestly, it's less of an ending than the Game of Thrones Season 8 ending. Game of Thrones Season 8, I think, kills it more because it does character assassination the entire season. But this ending in Devilman Lady is so abrupt and bad, I almost disregard the ending entirely, because the manga was really good up until that point. Like, I'd say, like, the last, 2 or 3 chapters of Lady are really bad, especially the last chapter. The last chapter is so bad. Like, at the end, they throw in Dante. Okay, kinda cool. Then they throw in angels, just out of nowhere. The angels are just right there, which, okay, yeah, Satan was a thing. But, like, they don't elaborate on it at all. There's just Archangel Michael there, and he looks exactly like Rio. Then we have Devilman Noir merge with Siren, which is actually really cool. But guess what? Nothing fucking comes of it. And apologies, like I said, my voice is really bad today. Then we have Akira come back through some really weird means, with June impregnating Asuka, and then the two of them merge back together into Rio, and then Rio turns to Akira and says, "Hey, Akira, my old bud friend and pal, let's go fight God for some reason." And Akira's like, "Oh yeah, Rio, my old bud friend and pal, you're such a rascal, with no respect for knights. You always drag me into this stuff. Why do you always gotta drag me into your little battles, huh, buddy?" It's like, what the fuck is this? Why is your reaction not, "Rio, you son of a bitch, you killed me and everyone I cared about. Why the fuck aren't you dead? Like, I should put you back in the ground right now, motherfucker." That should be the response. But instead, Akira's just like, "Oh, you asshole. Oh, ha, you asshole. I love you, buddy. Yeah, let's go fight God." And then, not only that, but they don't show them fight God. Instead, it's just like, next panel. Humanity was once again wiped from the face of the earth. Everybody died. The end. Like, I assume the Devilman Lady's ending was rushed as hell, which is why it's so bad. I think a similar thing happened with the Urotsukidoji manga ending, which is why that's so abrupt and bad too. But Devilman Lady makes that ending look good by comparison. I really hope that Saga has a good ending. Like I said, I'll read it once I finish Abashiri Family and NP-chan. Now let's talk about a manga that I overall just kind of hate in the DevilMan series, and that is Shin DevilMan. Let me be clear. Shin DevilMan has some scenes that I like. For instance, all of the stuff in the 6th volume of Shin DevilMan, or 6th chapter, which adds in stuff to the ending of DevilMan, where it has, like, Akira confront Ryo while he's holding Miki's head. That's not from the original manga. That's Shin DevilMan. It's in the deluxe edition and the classic collection and all of those. So it's in the original manga in the re-releases along with the rest of Shin DevilMan. That one I like. That one we can keep. But all the dumb, retarded shit with time travel just ruins the pacing. It spoils the Ryo twist really early. And it adds in a bunch of shit that just doesn't make sense and is just retarded and pads it out. Like, do we really need a chapter with General Custer? And do we really need a chapter where it's revealed that Hitler had a girlfriend that was killed by a demon? Do we really need that? Do we really need a chapter about Joan of Arc in hell? Do we really need like, all of this? Like, none of this matters. Like, it's just like Akira and Ryo get sent back in time for, like, a little bit. Like, hey, you know, story's going on, we're a couple volumes in, let's just go back in time for a few weeks and then come back and act like it didn't fucking happen. That's my biggest gripe with all of the later editions of DevilMan, because ever since the deluxe edition in Japan, Shin DevilMan has been included in every reprinting of the original series, leading so many to think that it's canon. And we'll do a whole video talking about canon. That's the overanalyzing I wanted to do. I wanted to talk about which versions of DevilMan I consider canon. But because my voice is so shot, I want to save it for when I sound a little bit better. But let's talk about another thing, right? So, I've only read this first chapter of this, right? But Neo Devilman. The first chapter of Neo Devilman is some of the worst shit I have ever read. It is written like a bad yaoi fanfiction. Because the premise of the first chapter of Neo Devilman is Ryo turns to Akira and says, "Hey Ryo, or hey Akira, baby, sexy. I love you. I want you. I likes you, and I want you. Now we can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way." And Akira's like, "Oh, yes, Daddy Ryo, I love you. Let's kiss." And so then they kiss. And Ryo's like, "Hey, Akira, you love me, right?" And Akira's like, "Of course I love you. You're my reason for living. I want to suck that cock." And Ryo's like, No. But if you love me, you'd kill Miki for me. Then we can be together. Please, kill Miki so we can be together. You know, like fucking Stan from that Eminem song. And then he's like, "Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll kill Miki." So then Akira kills Miki and ends up with Ryo. And that's the first chapter of Neo Devilman. And I'm like, what is this fucking yaoi trash? Like, obviously, I don't think that Ryo is technically gay, and I wouldn't say that this itself would be that, per se. I would say, with Akira's perception, maybe. Because, obviously, Ryo's a hermaphrodite. That's a whole other argument. We've done this before. We've been down that road. We know how I feel about that. But, obviously, it's still like some bad yaoi fanfiction, because, Ryo is still obviously masculine, despite being a hermaphrodite, and he does have a cock. And, this shit seems like it was written by some fucking fangirls that really just wanted an excuse to ship Akira and Ryo. I remember, in the Ryo Isn't Gay video, people in my comments said, "He kissed Akira." It's like, first off, I never said he wasn't attracted to men. I was making the argument because he's a hermaphrodite, right? Which, again, we've been over that. Ryo Isn't Gay Part 3 is a different video. We have that planned, don't worry. But it's like, I feel like that they're referring to this, because this is literally the only instance I can think of where Ryo actually kisses Akira. Like, unless I missed it somewhere else or I'm forgetting it, as far as I can recall, Neo Devilman Chapter 1 is the only place I have ever seen them actually kiss. That's not entirely true. I think they kiss in Saga when Ryo is dressing as a chick. But, like, this is the one I think of, right? Is this particular scene. But anyway, that's Neo Devilman. Like I said, I fucking hate it. I've only read the first chapter. I've heard other chapters are good because it's an anthology. So I might revisit it because there are some chapters actually written by Go Nagai himself. But that one where Ryo's just like, "Yeah, Akira, kill Miki for me." It's really fucking bad. Now, another thing that I don't like, and I've talked about this before, are Ammon's backstories, right? there are elements about his backstories that are cool. Let's be specific. Ammon has 2 different backstories within the expanded DevilMan universe. There's his backstory from Ammon Apocalypse of DevilMan, which is a spin-off that's non-canon. But it has Ammon merge with this giant moon that's also alive called Ammon the Great, and that's how he becomes the current Ammon. That's kind of cool and all, but there are elements of it that I don't like. I think it's the better of the 2, honestly. But my problems with Ammon Apocalypse of Devilman, or Dark Side of Devilman, sorry, are more with the later volumes, because that introduction is kind of cool, despite some of my misgivings. And I do think that is the better origin. Anyway, my problem with Ammon Dark Side of Devilman is that later on, they just kind of say, fuck it, we don't care about any of that, and then just start jumping all around in the timeline and getting really confusing. Now, granted, I'll probably go back and reread it and see what I think once I finish it, because I never finished it. I read like 4 volumes out of the 6. And it's been like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years since I've done that. But the other Ammon backstory, the one that's actually supposed to be canon, Demon Knight, I actually think is worse, and I hate that manga more. So for instance, I think Ammon merging with a werewolf and a dragon to become Ammon is cool. But I think this is an issue I have with both versions, is that Ammon's original form just looks like Akira. Like he's humanoid. He looks exactly like Akira. I think that's really my bigger problem with both of these flashbacks, like both of these origin stories, is why the fuck does Ammon have to look human before becoming the way he is? Like, I understand that merging is like a huge thing with demons for like ever. But Ammon looks exactly like fucking Akira. So you're telling me it was like destined from the start that Ammon would merge with Akira? Or are they like 2 halves of the same coin? Maybe that Guy's trying to go for something like that. But I'd much prefer the idea that Ammon has always been this badass demon champion, and that Akira merges with him, and due to his willpower, takes control. But that's not the only issue I have with Ammon the Dark Side. Sorry, not Ammon the Dark Side. That's not the only issue I have with Demon Knight. Demon Knight, at the end, it's later revealed this is like a vision Akira is seeing of the past in a dream. And then when Akira wakes up, he looks at Ryo and says, I had this dream, Ryo, and you were so beautiful in it. The fuck is this shit? Why would Akira say that to Ryo? Like, Akira doesn't love Ryo in the same way Ryo loves Akira. And I know Guy himself wrote this, but he wrote it years later. In the original manga, Akira and Ryo have a very different relationship. Ryo has a very one-sided, unrequited love for him. Whereas Akira views Ryo as a friend that he trusts and cares about, but Akira loves Miki. Now, Demon Knight does add on to the love that Siren and Ammon have a bit. It's a little bit different, though, because it's actually more that Ryo is in love with Akira. So maybe Siren actually... It's been a little bit since I've read it, too, so now I'm kind of blending things. That's why I kind of corrected myself there. Because, like, Ammon is in love with this demon called Yuria, who later merges with another demon named Lucifer. And by the way, all these demons are just fucking humans. They just look like humans. And that's the other thing I hate, is that in Demon Knight, all of the demons are just fucking humans before they merge with all this other stuff. Like, there's these other weird demonic entities that come out and start the merging, but, like, Ammon isn't that weird entity. Ammon is the human who looks exactly like Akira, who, due to that weird entity, gets merged with a werewolf and a dragon. And Ryo is created by Lucifer merging with Yuria and a bird. Ammon and Siren's backstory is actually much more tied together in Ammon, the Dark Side of Devilman, which I actually think is better. I think Ammon and Siren having a connection is better than Ammon and Satan having that connection. I actually like, in the Ammon OVA, how Satan and Ammon have a rivalry. They kind of hate each other and want to fight. Now, I don't know if that's really the case in the later manga, because I never finished Am the Dark Side of Devilman, and it's been forever since I've read Volume 1, so I honestly can't remember if that confrontation happens the same way in the manga as it does in the OVA, because I've watched the OVA pretty recently, and it's been forever since I've read Volume 1 of the manga. Point is, my problem with Ammon's backstories is he's always like a human, and he always looks exactly like Akira. Like, why the fuck can't we have Ammon be more unique? Like, Ammon's mystique and stuff is what makes him so cool. Like, we know so little about him pre-merge, and I think it should honestly either stay that way, or make him more of his own fucking character, instead of having him just be like Akira, but not. Now, obviously, the next thing I'll talk about is Devilman Crybaby, which I think is the worst adaptation of the original manga. Devilman Crybaby is an abysmal adaptation that modernizes the shit out of everything, ruins the pacing by cutting out key events and destroying character development. It also has a really stupid, simplistic, and cartoony fucking, like, Newgrounds art style. Like, the art style is always praised, and I fucking hate it. Crybaby has such a bad art style. Rio's this weird little fucking egg-headed twink. Akira's this little scrawny Astro Boy wannabe who becomes a lot admittedly better looking in episode 2 and up, but still, it's nowhere near as cool as he was before. All the sideburns are gone, and everything's just, like, really weird, and, like, proportions are odd, and, like, I don't like it. It's far too simplistic and, like, weird looking. Like, I would say that they look, to me, more deformed than they look in fucking Chibichara Go Nagai World. Because at least in that, they're basically just bobbleheads. Crybaby also just, like, I think completely ruins the Jinmen scene. I think that the best version of Jinmen, by far, is the OVAs. Like, Jinmen in the manga isn't anywhere near as cool as he is in the OVAs. The OVAs actually make Jinmen a really good character, and that's because they're based on the novel written by Go Nagai's brother, which also is ironically called Shin Devilman, but it's actually the good Shin Devilman. Although people typically call it True Devilman to make that distinction, because Shin can also mean true. It can mean new or true, depending on the context. So people will call the Devilman novel Shin Devilman or True Devilman. I just call it the novel to make it clear what I'm talking about, because the Devilman novel is so much better than Shin Devilman the manga, which is fucking awful. Like I said, I fucking hate Shin Devilman. Now let's talk about the Devilman movie. Overall, the Devilman movie is not great. However, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, and it turned out better than I expected. It's got a lot of problems, especially with pacing. They have some weird stuff with Rio, where rather than being Satan himself, he's just another demon. They did this weird thing where they made the demon mask like a technological thing rather than a mystical thing. But despite that, the movie is a better adaptation of the source material than Crybaby, and I actually don't think the movie is the worst thing. I've definitely seen worse, live-action anime adaptations. Obviously, Netflix Death Note is, like, the worst one. But even if we're talking Japanese ones, that really weird Black Butler movie is worse, I would say. That one that makes Ciel a woman and is really fucking odd and takes place, like, in the future, but, like, still kind of tries to be Victorian London. It's a fucking weird movie. If you haven't seen it, it's fucking bizarre. So, ironically, although I don't particularly like the Devilman movie, I think it's better than Crybaby, and it's nowhere near on the level of Shin Devilman as much as I hate it, because I think Shin Devilman is the worst one. Like, actually, no. First chapter of Neo Devilman is the worst thing I've read. First chapter of Neo Devilman is easily the worst Devilman thing I've ever read. But Shin Devilman as a whole is my least favorite of the mangas I've completed. I also have very mixed feelings on the ending to Devilman Grimoire. Devilman Grimoire, like, making it so that Ammon and Akira are one and the same, and that Solomon is also the same person, and then it gets really confusing, because then it's also like demons don't really exist, but, like, they're, like, manifestations of your willpower or something. I don't remember, because it's really weird, confusing, and convoluted. Like, that's the thing I find, is that Devilman, the original, has a great ending, but a lot of the spin-offs, sequels, reimaginings, and stuff like that tend to have weird, mixed, or just straight-up bad endings. The only one that actually has a satisfying ending, in my opinion, is Violence Jack. Like, granted, like I said, I never finished Saga, I never finished the Ammon manga, so maybe they have good endings. But Violence Jack actually has a proper rematch between Akira and Rio, and actually is satisfying in that regard, and that's one of the main reasons why Violence Jack is the one that I like to view as, like, the definitive ending. Hence why when I do my shared universe theory that I've done, and, like, when I did that, I said that that's probably the end of the timeline. But now let's talk about the real worst part of Devilman, and that's the fucking fan base. Mainly the new ones. Let me be clear. The new fan base brought on by Crybaby is a bunch of generic, normie, fucking young people who want to fucking pretend like, you know, Devilman is, like, needs to be this, like, weird modern thing. Like, it's this weird, like, normie insurgence that just kind of ruins the fan base. Like, granted, that's why I say we let him have Crybaby. Let him keep that. But just try to gatekeep him the fuck out of the rest of the stuff. That's what I think we should do. And, like, granted, I argue with the old fan base, too, because maybe some of the more, like, fucking gay parts of the old fan base will argue with me about Rio, and, like, at that point, we're arguing, you know, is a hermaphrodite truly gay? Like, that's really the argument, right? But then, of course, they make it about trannies, which it wasn't. And then, they freak the fuck out about that. It's a whole big thing. But also, like, the elements of the fan base who think that Rio is, like, a hero and that, like, God is, like, the true villain, they piss me off a lot, too. But honestly, the only comments that really pissed me off is, like, when people, like, accused me of, like, not knowing the source material. When I'm gonna sound like a prick here, but Devilman is, like, the one thing I feel confident calling myself an expert on. Like, there are gaps in my knowledge, sure. That's true with literally anyone on anything. But I would say I have done more digging and reading and research on Devilman than the vast majority of people who come into my comments and be like, so you're just gonna pretend the manga didn't exist? Did you watch the same show? Oh, maybe read it this time, but keep your eyes open. You have no idea what you're fucking talking about. I know what I'm talking about. Devilman is my fucking shit. I am the Devilman guy on YouTube. I have done over 130 fucking videos on Go Nagai. I think I know what the hell I'm talking about. But that's really kind of a whole other tangent. Because here we're mainly talking about the pieces of Devilman media that I don't like. And I think I've largely covered it. I guess another one I think is fucking retarded is Siren-chan. But, like, it's supposed to be. Like, I don't hate it. It's goofy and stupid. But it's definitely not one of my favorites. Or, like, the Mercedes-Benz, like, ad that they did. I mean, it's kind of funny, so I don't hate it. In fact, for an advertisement, I actually kind of love it. So I guess I wouldn't even really put that on this. But I've rambled a lot. My voice sounds like shit. I need to start getting ready for work in a minute. So I hope you guys enjoyed this long, rambly rant about the parts of Devilman that maybe aren't as great as the rest. Let me be clear, I love Devilman, I love Go Nagai, and I like the vast majority of the sequels, even if there's aspects I don't like about them. However, there are some aspects I definitely don't like, and that's what this is about. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. So see you, chumps.